Okay, so there are a couple of things that we're going to talk about first before we get into proving angle relationships. The first one is a postulate. Okay, that is just a statement that is accepted without proof. And that postulate is called the angle addition postulate. What does that sound like? Segment addition postulate. So it's basically the same thing. It's saying that I can take this angle here, okay, this small angle, and I can add it to this angle here to equal a bigger angle. Just like the segment addition says I can take this segment and this segment to get a bigger segment. The angle says the same thing. I can take this small angle plus this small angle, and that's going to equal a bigger angle. Does that make sense? Sure, okay. Then we, excuse me, we have, it's what we call the supplement theorem, but I don't actually refer to it as that. I just refer to it as what it says. And that's if two angles form a linear pair, what does that mean? They make a what? We've talked about linear pairs before. They make a line, and a pair means how many of them? Two. So two angles put together to make a straight line. So for example, it would look something like that. That's a linear pair. Angle 1 and angle 2 make a linear pair. And if they make a linear pair, that means that they are supplementary. So if in a picture you see a pair of angles that are a linear pair, like for example the picture that I drew, then you would say angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary. And then because they are supplementary, what else could we say from that? What do supplementary angles add up to be? 180. So then I could go on to say that the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 is equal to 180. So those are two steps that I could say in a proof when I'm referring to a linear pair. All right, then you have the complement theorem. Again, I don't look at it as the complement theorem, but I look at it as what it says. Is if two adjacent angles form a right angle, then they are complementary. Okay, so I would give you a picture that looks something like this. Okay, there's angle 3 and 4. I know that's kind of small, sorry. To make it bigger. Angle 3 and 4, but I'd have to have that little right angle there. If I were given that picture, I could say that the measure of angle 3, that angle 3 and angle 4 are complementary. And then because they're complementary, I could say that they add up to equal 90. Okay, so again, two different statements that we could say in a proof if I were given a picture like that. So far, so good? Okay. Now, we're not doing actual proofs today. What we're going to do is just look at some examples on how to find some angle measures based off of the angle addition postulate, a linear pair being supplementary, and a pair of complementary angles. All right? Is everybody ready? Not yet? Okay. All right, I want you to study that picture for that next example, okay? How many different angles do we have labeled there? 3, right? 1, 2, and 3? Do you see numbers 1, 2, and 3? Yeah? Okay. And then it gives me a bit of information. It asks me to find what is the measure of angle 3. If the measure of angle 1 is 23, okay, so what I would like to do is label that in my picture. I'm going to make it bigger so we can see it. If angle 1 is 23 degrees, yes? What do we know about angle 2 before I even keep going? How do you know it's 90? Because the little box, yeah. So angle 2 is going to be 90 degrees. What we're trying to find is what angle 3 is, right? what else does it tell me? It tells me the measure of angle ABC. Is that whole angle? How much is that? 131. So from here all the way over here is 131 degrees. So how could I find angle 3? Yeah. I'm going to subtract, but in order to do that, to save myself a little bit of time, would it make sense to add these two small ones together first? Okay, so let's do that. Let's add 23 and 90. That gives me 113. And then I'm going to take and subtract that from how much? 131. I'm going to subtract it from the whole. Okay, so 131 minus 113. Let me do some math here. It's a 2. It's an 11. So what is that? 18? So the measure of angle 3 is 18 degrees? Yes? You guess? Do you understand what I did? Okay. All right, so angle addition doesn't necessarily have to refer to just two angles. In this particular picture, I had 3 small angles and then the large angle. They gave me 2 of the small angles, they gave me the large angle, and they asked me to find the third angle. So I just added the 2 together, I subtracted, and took it away from that. Okay. I want you to try the next example. Look at the information given. Look at your picture. We're looking for the measure of angle 3 in this case. It gives me a bit of information that I can use. This one is very similar to the previous question. I want to see a number on your paper. I want to see how many of you can figure it out. It helps if you label your pictures, if you draw on your pictures. Trying to keep everything straight in your head is not as easy. Okay, we're looking for the measure of angle 3. Most of you had the right idea. Some of you just made a simple mistake with your adding and subtracting. What does it tell me about angle 1? It's 90 because of the little box, right? What about angle 2? It is 26. What do all three of those give me together? 180. So I'm going to add 90 and 26 together, which is 116. And then I'm going to take that and I'm going to subtract it from 180. So just be careful with your subtracting here. That gives me 64 degrees. Yep. See? Not terrible, right? All right. I'm going to walk through this one with you. First of all, look at your picture. It says, what is the measure of angle 4 if the measure of angle 5 is 2x and the measure of angle 4 is x plus 9? So in this one, we're going to have to do a little bit of work. But look at your picture. What can you tell me about 4 and 5 together? They equal 180 because they give you a straight line, right? So let's set up an equation. What is the measure of angle 4? What is the measure of angle 5? 2x. So I'm going to add those two together, and I'm going to set it equal to 180. Solve for x. And once you get x, you're going to have to plug that back in to find angle 4. Okay, it's not asking you for angle 5 in this case. It's just asking you for angle 4. So once you set your equation up, right, we can tell that they equal 180 because they are a linear pair. We're going to solve it for x, and then we're going to take that x and plug it back in to find the measure of angle 4. X plus 9 plus 2x. If I combine my like terms, what does that give me? Then we would subtract 9. So 3x is going to equal 171. And then I'm going to divide 57. Okay. But that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the measure of angle 4, and that is x plus 9. So for the measure of angle 4, I'm going to plug that in. 57 plus 9 gives me a total of 66 degrees. Does that make a little bit of sense? Okay. All right, does everybody see the picture? Alrighty then. It says Maylin is installing shelves in her room. One of the brackets she chose for her shelves is shown. What shape does that bracket make? A triangle, right? All right, so it's got angle 3 here. It's got a little box there. It's got angle 2 here, but then it's got angle 1 down here. Oh, I missed 4. I missed it, sorry. And angle 4 there. Does everybody see that in the picture? All right, so, yes, the little box is 90. It tells me the measure of angle 3 is 55 degrees, so I'm going to label that as 55 degrees. And it's asking me to find the measure of angle 4. So what we need to determine is, what can you tell me about 3 and 4 together? They make 180. They are a linear pair. Remember, they make a straight line right here. And that means together they're going to be how much? 180. So to find angle 4, I just do what? Subtract 55 from 180. We get 125 degrees. Okay. So they gave you a lot in that picture, didn't they? Did you really need to know anything about angles 1 and 2? No. They're going to do that a lot on your EOC. They're going to give you way more information than you need. Mm-hmm. They're just trying to trick you, exactly. Is everybody good? Okay. Are we ready for the next one? All right. No? So my directions tell me to find the measure of each numbered angle. Do you guys remember we talked about vertical angles before? And vertical angles are always what? Congruent. So let me ask you this. If I'm looking at my angle 38, which numbered angle is going to be exactly the same? 38. Which one's directly? 1, right? Okay, so angle 1 is going to be 38 degrees. That's vertical, right? What other angle do they give me? They give me this 90 degree right here. So which angle is vertical from that? 3. So number 3 is also going to be 90. Will angles 2 and 4 be the same? Yeah. Yes. Figure out what they are. There's a couple of different ways you can do this one. There are a couple of different ways that you can figure this out depending on what you see. Neither one of them is the better way. They both get you to the correct answer. Okay, here's a question. How many of you used 180? Did anybody use 90? Okay. Either way, and let me show you what I'm talking about. Let me erase my highlighters. Okay, so those of you who used 180, you could have used a couple of different options, but angles 1, 2, and 3 even, they give me 180, right, because they're a straight line. So we can add the 38 and the 90, and that gives me 128. And I can subtract that from 180. And I get 52, right? Some of us, however, saw that we could use 90 because if this one right here is 90, what does that mean 1 and 2 are together? 90. So I could also just do 90 minus 38. And that still gives me 52. So either way, it doesn't matter. They both get you to the same answer. It just depends on what you see when you look at that picture. Do you see the 180? Do you see 90? Either way, it's not important as long as you can get to that 52. Does that make sense? Okay. Vertical angles are easy because they're congruent. You just have to know which ones are vertical. You will have a question very similar to that on your test where I'm going to give you a picture and there's going to be a bunch of angles and you have to figure out all the missing angles. Okay? All right. It says find x and all of the angle measures. What I have to do is decide how to set up my equation. Let's start with the first question A. What are those two angles?
2x plus 40.
Yeah, but what do you know about them?
They're vertical.
They're vertical, which means they are equal. So to set up an equation and solve, I'm going to have to set
2x plus 40.
Maybe 2x plus 40 equals 4x. Keep going. Solve it for x. Once you find x, plug it back in, and I also want you to find the measure of the angles that are not listed in that picture. How do you get 2x?
They all end.
So even these right here?
Yeah, because this right here, that's what the straight line is. This thing right here is 180.
Oh, yeah.
This is 80. That's congruent. So
All right, let's solve this. How do I get 2x over with 4x?
you gotta subtract it.
So that is 40 equals
4x. Oh, 2x.
You're good. All right, y'all. So x is going to equal how much? 20. So I'm going to plug that back in. What is 4 times 20? 80, which means this other one is also 80. Here's my question. What would these two angles be? No. These two together give me how much? 180. So if the one down here is 80, then this top one would have to be 100, which means the bottom one would also have to be 100. Are we ready? All right, look at B. We need to set up an equation and solve for x first. What do those two angles do together? They add up to be 180. So let's add them. Let's add 2x. Maybe. Try this again. All right, 2x plus, what's the other one? is going to equal
180.
180. Solve it for x. Once you have x, you're going to need to plug it back in and find all four angles.
That's now.
You know they got on TikTok they got like a part like it's like
Right. You need to make sure you get this out.
Alexander.
To solve this equation, this time my x's are on the same side, so I don't do the opposite. I just combine them. What's 2x plus 4x? Thank you. I got a lot of chitter chatter and I'm trying to go through a problem. Some of y'all are going to get lost. Now what? Subtract my 60. Okay. What's 2 times 20?
40.
Okay. And then the next one, 4 times 20 is
Oh, that's
80, and 80 plus 60 is 140. Question. What is this angle going to be?
40.
40. And what is this one down here going to be? 140. Because they're vertical?